Hello everyone. Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, team. Team, we'll resume with our today's session. And in today's session, I see we have one new participant, Anupama. Hi Anupama. This is Ravi. I'm gonna be the trainer for the ORC module.
Hi Ravi. Hi everyone.
Anupama, just a quick introduction about yourself, just to understand your skills and cap experience.
Hi everybody. Hi Ravi. Myself Anupama. I have worked in Oracle Fusion Cloud, basically in the payroll module. And right now in my company, they are implementing ORC. So I just wanted to know how it works. So that's why I have joined this training.
Okay, perfect. And what's your total experience, Anupama, in Fusion?
In Fusion, I have 5 years of experience, include payroll as well as I have worked on absence management. So basically, right now, the module that I'm working on is payroll. Absence management was like 2 years back or something, but I have a knowledge in that.
Okay, okay, perfect. Right. As I said, my name is Ravi, and I'm going to be the trainer for this particular batch. And I have more than 15 years of experience in the Fusion. Worked on modules like Core HR, Absence, Talent Management, ORC, Learn, and not extensively, but minimal experience on payroll and compensation modules. Just a quick intro, other things for you, Anupama. Like we will be having our training sessions starting from 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. IST, and then the training sessions will happen from Monday to Friday. And we will not be having any sessions on weekends. And on the holidays, based on everyone's preference, we will decide if we wanted to have the session or not. So just wanted to give you a quick update on these things. And from the training perspective, once you complete your enrollment, you'll be given access to two of our demo instance for your testings and testing purpose. And then you'll be given access to the recordings for lifetime, where you can able to view the recordings at any point of time. And apart from that, any documents or materials which has been shared as part of the training, you, it will also be available on your logins and you can able to download and or you can able to access it at any point of time. So with this, let me just go on move on to today's session. Team, in yesterday's session, in yesterday we talked about in detail about FSM. We talked what is an FSM, how to export the configurations, and how to import the configurations in another instance. And we saw three different methodologies, three different methods through which we can able to export, migrate the setup from one instance to another instance, starting from at the task level CSVs and at the offering level CSVs and at the configuration packages. Any other doubts or questions, team, on FSM before I move on to today's topic?
Sir, that was really interesting one which we saw yesterday, but we need to practice it. So as soon as we will have some work on it, we try to move from one instance to another. We'll get more knowledge on it.
Yeah, that's very true, Ali. And also now that once you guys complete your enrollment, right, you will be having two different instance access. You will have two different demo access, so you can use the same for the migrations exercise.
Yeah, okay, sir.
And Ali, please, you can just call me Ravi.
Okay, okay, Ravi.
Thanks. And now we'll start with the next topic, which is getting to know recruiting. So let me just shoot up my PPT. And in today's session, the first topic which we are going to start with getting to know recruiting. And as part of it, we'll start with the learning objective, and then we'll see what are the who are the different end users who are involved in the recruiting process. And then we'll also see what are the different end user activities involved, and then who are the different end user applications, which is involved as part of the recruiting module. And then going forward, like, in most of the topics, we will be adding this particular, topic to all our agendas, which is rules and strategies. So what do we say or what do we talk about rules and strategies slide is like, over a period of, over the last couple of years, based on my implementations on ORC, right? There are certain rules and strategies which I have created. Okay? And then there are certain Oracle standard rules and regulations, rules and strategies, and based on my past experience, I've just added certain rules and strategies which will help to have an effective implementations. So for each and every topic, we'll be looking into the different rules and strategies. And then in a recruiting process life cycle, already we covered it in our first day session. So we will not be, covering it again. So the learning objective. So we, as part of this topic, we will list the different end users and what are the different activities involved in the recruiting for each of the end users. And then we'll examine the different end user experience from the recruiter, hiring manager, and candidate's perspective. So first we start with who are the different end users involved. Okay? So the primary roles which are involved in the end users are the recruiters, the hiring managers, and the candidates. And as I already said, whenever I refer candidates, it refers to both internal and external candidates. Okay? So it could be both internal or external. And sometimes if there are any configurations or anything which is specific to external candidates, right, then I will be using this term external. If it is for internal, then I will be using this term internal candidates. So this is how we can able. This is how, like, the terminologies I'll be using across all our sessions. So these are the primary end users which we have. And apart from this primary end users, we also have some called secondary end users. So who are the second end users? Second end users are basically the requisitioner offer collaborators. Okay? So, and then we have something called as marketing sources, approvers, interviewers, and employer referrers. Okay? So these are the secondary end users which we have in the recruit module. Okay? And if you notice, like, we have the recruiter. Just clear the ink. So the recruiters, hiring managers, and the collaborators, right? All these three people, they are clubbed together, called as, the hiring team or the offer team. So here, if you notice, all these three together are called as the hiring team or the offer team. So whenever, once you start working on what's in module, and then whenever someone says, okay, say I need to send an approval or I need to send a notification to the hiring team, that means that, the notification has to be triggered to the hiring managers, recruiters, and the collaborators. And then similarly, when they say offer collaborator, offer team, then it refers to the hiring team of recruiters, hiring managers, and the collaborators of the offer. So this is one important terminology which we need to be aware of. And whenever you go to the interviews, right, this could be a standard question for the entry level people, right? So the and I also mentioned, like, these are the different second end users, right? So we have something called as marketing sources. If you guys remember, in our first day session, we saw about the recruiting life cycle. So as part of the recruiting life cycle, we saw this particular sources. So what would be the nature of work, right? What exactly are they going to do is once the requisition is posted on the career site, okay, so they will start doing, they will start creating the campaigns, creating, marketing campaigns, and, sourcing the candidates. So that's going to be the primary roles and responsibilities. Next, we have something called as approvers. So who are the approvers? Like, the person whoever is approving the requisition or the offer, who are not part of the offer team or the hiring team. They are called as approvers. Okay? And then we have interviews, the person who is taking up the interviews for the candidates. And then we have employee referrals, basically the internal employees who are submitting the referrals. These are the different kind of end users involved in the recruiting process. And now that we saw the different end users, right? So we'll see, like, what are the different activities which each of the end user performs. So first we have hiring manager. So what an hiring manager can able to do? Hiring manager can able to initiate requisitions, they can able to approve requisitions, they can review all the top candidates in the requisition, and they can participate in an interview and they can approve an offer. So the system area or the system access for the hiring manager is they have to go to My Team and they will go to hiring. Apart from the Fusion application, they can, they also be notified with the emails. And then if you ask me, Ravi, is this the only activities which the hiring manager performs? No, these are not the only activities. These are some of the activities which, each of the end users can perform. Next, we have recruiters. So recruiters can able to complete requisitions which has been initiated by the hiring manager. They can able to view and screen the candidates. They can able to move the candidates throughout the process. And then they can also able to interview candidates, manage candidate status, and recruiters, they can able to create and complete offer. So these are some of the activities which are involved by the recruiter. So let's say, for example, right, if this complete view and complete offer, right? This particular activity can be performed only by the recruiter. Okay. And by standard, this activity cannot be performed by the hiring manager. But if in case, if the customer requirement, as per the customer requirement, if the customer says that, even the hiring manager should be able to create and complete offer, then we can provide this activity to the hiring manager as well. So those kind of things can also be performed. Next, now from the system area perspective, the recruiters, they have to navigate to My Client Group, and then, under My Client Group, they have hiring. Yeah, they have email. Yeah, apart from, application, they can also access all the information from their emails as well. And last we have is the candidates. So what a candidate can able to do, they can able to search and apply for the job. They can participate in an interview. They can accept or decline an offer, and they can complete post-hire activities. And then apart from that, the internal candidates, right? They can able to submit referrals. So that these are some of the activities. And the navigation would be for external candidates, it would be the external career site. And for the internal candidates, it would be like, internal job openings page, or we call it as opportunity marketplace, which is the new terminology which we have. And then they will also be notified, with certain information through the emails. So from the application perspective, we already saw, a quick demo of different users on the first day session, right? So we'll see that, in today's session as well. So this is how, the external career site will look like, the emails for, the different end users, and this is the internal career site. This is what, we call it as job openings page, or the current, current jobs page. Okay. So now it has been replaced with a new page called as opportunity marketplace. We'll see that also in today's session. And this is for the internal candidates. And then we have My Client Group and hiring. This is for the hiring managers and the recruiters. So I was talking about, the different end user experience, certain rules and strategies, right? So what is the first thing is like, all the end users, right? They need to have the proper privilege to see the relevant data and perform appropriate functions. Okay? So as most of you have experience in Fusion, so if a candidate, if an, user if the user does not have the required privileges, right, then they cannot able to see or perform any transactions in the front end. So let's say, for example, if the customers, have different kind of recruiter roles. So let's say they have junior recruiters, senior recruiters. Okay? And for junior recruiters, they wanted to have access to the hiring module, but with a very limited access. They cannot able to move a candidate. They cannot able to, create an offer. Like, a lot of restrictions, right? Basically, how do we handle those restrictions? Is basically we remove the privilege from the roles. Okay? So if the user does not have the right privileges, then they cannot able to perform certain actions. And then similarly, if they don't have the right data security, then what will happen is they will cannot able to see the data. Even if they can perform the transactions, but they will end up not seeing any data, because of which they cannot able to perform any transactions. And all the external candidates can be driven to the career sites through third-party job postings and social networking sites, campaigns, and other marketing efforts. And then internal candidates can apply through Me area of HCM by going to the job openings page or the opportunity market page. So this is also where the internal candidates, they can able to see all the job offers which has been extended to them. Okay? And the same page is the place where they can able to make some referrals as well. And then the system allows the candidates to verify the applications through emails. That's Oracle standard. And then if the customers wants, they can able to set up, candidate auto confirmation. Okay. So we have a functionality called as candidate auto confirmation. We'll see that, what exactly is candidate auto confirmation, and how to configure it in tomorrow's session. Okay. So these are certain rules and strategies which we have when it comes to the, and the end users. So what we'll do is, let me just quickly go into the application and let me just log in as one user. Just give me 2 minutes, guys. Let me just quickly reset the password. So any doubts or questions of our team on the end users, different end users which we talked about? So let me just log in. So once we log in into the application, so we talked about three different end users, right? Hiring manager, recruiters, and candidates, right? So as a recruiter, in order to access the hiring module, all they have to do is go to my client group and click on hiring. Once they click on hiring, they will be landing on this job requisitions page. Okay. So this is the page where this is the navigation for the recruiters. Once the recruiters come to this particular page, they can able to see all the job requisitions. They can able to see the candidate search. Candidate search is basically if they wanted to search for any candidates, they can use this particular candidate search. And then we have campaigns. If they wanted to create any campaigns, see the existing campaigns, results, and all those things. And then we have something called as candidate pools. So job offers, events, and recruit to hire. So this recruit to hire is a dashboard. So once I go to once I click on recruit to hire, a dashboard, Oracle standard dashboard would be loaded up here. So this is Oracle standard report dashboard, which is available to all the customers. So give me 1 second. It is taking little time to load. So it is taking little time to load as it is demo instance, right? Sometimes the instance would be little cranky. So let's not worry about it. So the navigation for the recruiters is they have to go to first, they have to navigate to my client group. And once they go to My Client Group, they will see Hiring tab. So this is the navigation for the recruiters. Next, let's see for the hiring managers. So the hiring managers, they have to navigate to My Team. And once they go to My Team, they will see this hiring here. So once they click on hiring, they can able to access all the hiring related ones. And here, if you notice, like, the options in the left side, right? It is same as, what the recruiters are have, right? But in real time, in general, right, what will happen is a pure hiring manager. When I say pure hiring manager, right, this user who has only the hiring manager roles and not the recruiter roles, right? They will not able to see all this, options here. For example, they will not able to see candidate search. They cannot see campaigns. They will not see candidate pools. They will not able to see events, and they will not able to see a recruit to hire dashboard. Okay. All they can able to see is, they can able to see job requisitions, and you can able to see candidate search as well. Okay. So they can able to see job requisitions, and they can able to see candidate search and job offers. These are the three links which would be displayed for a hiring manager. But here, the reason why this particular user can able to see everything is because this user holds the role of an hiring manager as well as the role of a recruiter. Hence, he can able to see all the tasks. Okay? If you just log in as an just a user with hiring manager role, not the recruiter role, then you will not able to see all these strike dot options. And as everyone knows, right, the Oracle Fusion, they follow like, the rules are like, it follows the AND operation, right? So that's why they can able to see some additional functionalities. And apart from that, based on the data security, whatever we define to the hiring manager role, they can able to see the requisitions. So here currently they are seeing, the filter, which is, if it will show all the requisitions for which they are either part of a recruiter or if they are an hiring manager or a collaborator. Okay. But if I just remove this filter, then, based on the data security, right, they can able to see all the requisitions. So currently this user has access to 126 requisitions in this particular instance. Okay. So now we saw the navigations for a recruiter and for a line manager or a hiring manager. Now we'll see, how to access as an employee. Yeah. So this is the recruit to hire dashboard tip. So this is an Oracle standard dashboard, and then this dashboard can be completely customized based on the customer needs. So once we go to the dashboard, again, based on the data securities, the data which is displayed in the dashboard will be automatically updated. As you guys are aware, like, all these are like, OTBI reports. These are not OBI reports. These are all like, OTBI reports. Hence, the data securities are by defaultly enabled. So again, based on this users, whoever has logged in, based on the data security, they will see different numbers here. So particularly this user has like, basically we all access data security. So you can able to see, all the details here. So here we have like, the overview tab. Apart from that, we have campaign and sourcing, source tracking, requisitions. So we have different tabs here for the recruiters. So this is about, the recruit to hire dashboard. And one important note about the recruit to hire dashboard is that, by default, like, when you start working on a fresh instance, you will not able to see this recruit to hire link here. Okay? It will not be displayed here. This is not Oracle standard to display the recruit to hire dashboard here. So how do we, display it? Like, we have to do a certain customizations to bring up the recruit to hire link here. So we have to create a sandbox, we have to create some page templates, and then, we have to create this mappings here. So once we go in detail into our training sessions, right, as part of the record sessions, we'll see how to, enable this particular recruit to hire link in the hiring screen. So next we'll see the last end user, which is the internal employees. So internal employees, internal candidates, if they wanted to access the internal career site, all they have to do is they have to navigate to me. And once they go to me, they will see this opportunity marketplace. So previously we have something called as current jobs. but Oracle has decommissioned current jobs, and now we have this opportunity marketplace. So the opportunity marketplace is basically it's a it performs the same functionality but with a different look and feel. And then this opportunity marketplace gives better user experience to the candidates. So once we come to the opportunity marketplace, you can see all the job openings which has been posted. And here, if you notice, we have something called as gig. So we have something called as gigs. So what is this gigs? Gigs are basically it's a part-time opportunities, which is there inside the organization. Let's say I as an employee, okay, if I let's say I'm doing a weekend interview, and then I'm looking for some interviews who can support in screening the candidates for certain technologies. So what I will do is I can just come here and then I can create a gig. So I'll mention looking for interviews with Java or whatever the skill sets is there, or for a weekend interview, I can just put this a part-time advertisement kind of things here. And then if anyone are interested, they can just come and they will apply just like how they apply to the other job requisitions. The only difference is any selections which has happened through the gigs, right? That will not have any impact on the assignments. Okay? So this is one important rule which we need to be aware of. The gigs will not have any impact on their assignments. Okay? So there will be no change in the assignments. Nothing will happen. It's just like a support which they are performing. So that is what the purpose and the functionality of gig. So if I just open it,
Assignment means core HR assignment, or
yes,
where it is not.
for HR assignments.
Okay.
Because the opportunity marketplace is for the internal candidates. So let's see, let me just open it. So this is one of the one gig which I open. Okay. So help launch a new store opening. So it's these are the some examples of what could be a gig is for. So they will mention how many hours per week and all those details. So this is how an internal candidate will access the career site. So next,
And Ravi, it link with rewards also by somehow.
no, not for now. So as an Oracle standard, there is no connection to the compensation module. But if you want, then that those things can be enabled. I mean, it's a custom solution which we can able to create. Okay, so now that we saw the internal candidate, right? Let us see how an external candidate will access our career sites. Let me just go to the career sites. And just open any one of this. So all the external candidates, right? They can access to the career site by accessing to this particular URLs. Okay, so customers can have multiple career sites. Okay? So there is no restrictions on how many career sites they can build or they can use or they can be active. So they can have a number of career sites, and each and every career site can be completely customized to display certain type of requisitions, which we'll see that in detail once we go to the career site configurations. But for now, this is how the career sites will look like. Yeah, I'll just take some other career site. So this is one example of an external career site. Once they go to the career sites, external career sites, the external candidates they can search for the open requisitions using the find tab here. Okay? So they can just enter the details to search. They can search for the open requisitions using the title, skills, or keywords or any events, and they can also search using the locations. So they can enter locations, they can enter postal code, or they can use something called as near my location. So what is near my location? Whenever we access this career set, right, system will ask for the location access. Okay? If I allow the system or allow the browser to access my current location, then the browser, I mean the career site will display list of all the open requisitions which are nearby to my locations. So currently, I have not enabled it, but this is some functionality which we have. And apart from this, if one candidate wants to see all the open requisitions, they can just do a blank search. And once they click on blank search, they can able to see list of all the requisitions, which is there in this career search. And they can just click on any of the requisitions and they can see the details of the requisition, and they can just click on apply now and proceed with it. So this is how an external candidate can access our career sites. So any doubts or questions, team, before I move on to the next topic?
Ravi, we can segregate the job groups also, like as mentioned, nursing is a separate group on the website and admin jobs are separate. And based on division also, we can separate if a company has couple of divisions, they want to post in a separate divisions.
Yes, we have a lot of filter parameters in the career site. Okay, so see, there is we can do based on the organization. Okay? So when it's an organization, it's like based on legal entities, divisions, departments, you can have separate career sites. So these are some of the examples for an for the career site filters. Okay, what I'll do is let me just edit one of the career site. Just show you the different parameters through which we can restrict this. You can restrict based on your job category, based on your organization, location, job function, and recruiting types. Okay, these are the parameters through which you can define which career site to display what kind of requisitions. For example, for this particular requisition, right? If you see, the job category set, the blue highlighted job category set, any requisitions which is created with this blue highlighted job categories will be displayed in this particular career set. So you have filters, these are the options. Let's say, for example, if you wanted to have separate career set for different locations. Let's say if the customers have their presence in 5 different countries, and they can have 5 different career sites for one for each country, and then requisitions from that particular career sites to be posted on those career sites. Those kind of configurations can be done.
Okay.
And coming to a division, right? We can use that in our organization.
This organization is division or departments.
It can be anything. It can be your enterprise, legal entity, divisions. So basically, whatever the components or whatever the objects which you add in our organization tree. We'll see that in detail, Ari. We'll be talking about this in detail, but just wanted to, since you asked this point, I just showed you the different options.
Ravi, because I missed yesterday's class, just out of curiosity, I'm asking, have you already shared how to configure the career site with
No.
HCM?
No,
Okay.
not it. So, Anupama, just maybe since you asked this point, so these are the different topics or agenda which we have for the ORC module. So we have just started with the course overview, okay, and then we started with introduction to recruiting, in this day before session, and then in yesterday's session we primarily talked about FSM, functional setup manager, how to export and import setups from one instance to another instance. And then today we talked about the different end users, right? So basically, what we do is, we have this Excel file. So the moment we complete any topics, right, I'll be mentioning the dates here, so that if you have any doubts or questions on any of these topics in the future, right, you can always refer to the dates, and then you can pick up the recording from that particular date to refer those topics. Okay? And then we are going to talk about the recruiting users and the securities, and then we start with recruiting and candidate experience management. This is where we start with the core setups for the recruit module, and then we will talk about pre-screening questions, and then we talk about requisitions, and then notifications, and then we talk about candidate selection process. Okay? And then we will see what is a job application flow, how to define or how to create a job application flow. What are the different options of application flows we have? And then that after that, we will talk about how to configure a career site. And then we'll talk about how to configure the job offers, and all the remaining topics will follow up. And then as part of our training sessions, I'll be bringing in a lot of case studies. Once we go to the code, code configuration topics, right? We'll be bringing a lot of case studies based on my past experience and based on, other friends and colleagues' experience. And then we'll be bringing in a lot of custom requirements. Let's say if we talk about CSP, candidate selection process, right? What kind of requirements you can expect? So we'll be talking from that perspective. And then, then and there I'll be, shouting out about, these are the topics which you need to be focused on and from an interview perspective. And then similarly, I'll be shouting out on few topics which is needed from a certification perspective as well. So once we complete the ORC module, right, then we jump on to the onboarding, and then we'll jump on to goals, performance, and profile management. And as part of the ORC module, we'll be jumping into the core HR module then and there when required. Because ORC module, ORC cannot be so ORC cannot be implemented without an core HR module. So this is how we have planned our training sessions.
Okay, Ravi.
Yeah. So any other doubts or questions, team, on the end users before I move on to the next topic? Yeah. Then let me just put out to the next topic. Team, I'm sorry, just give me 1 minute. I'll just get my water bottle up. Yeah, so sorry. So we'll resume. So in next, we will talk about configuring the recruiting users and the securities. So so team, like everyone has already worked on Fusion application, right? So anyone without Fusion experience? Anyone? So Himanshu, Alon does not. So Himanshu, like, do you have any idea about how the roles and securities works in Oracle Fusion? Himanshu, can you able to hear me? Okay, and Ali, even you, have you worked on, or do you have any idea of how the roles works in Oracle Fusion?
I have idea, but not that much. I have take the training for core HR module,
Okay.
but not worked as a part of implementation or any support project.
Uh-huh. Okay. Fine. So what we'll do is we'll also talk about, the role expertise. So, so the next topic which we have is the configuring recruiting users and securities. So as part of it, first we'll have a quick introduction about the users and those different users and securities which we have, and then we'll talk about the recruiting role-based securities. What are the roles we have? What all the the privileges which we have, and then we will see how to configure recruiting users and security. And then we will talk about the job requisition security profile. So what is a requisition security profile? Why do we need to define a security profiles? And then we will have a sample comparison for the recruiting functions, and then certain rules and strategies. And then we have something called as area of responsibility. So these are the different topics which we have in as part of this particular session. So first we'll start with a quick introduction about, the different recruiting users and security switcher. So as you know, the Oracle Fusion here, right? The HCM cloud basically works based on role-based securities. So in short, we call it as RBAC, role-based access control. Okay. So in order for a user to perform any activities inside the Fusion application, right, they need a role. Okay. And then what does the role does is the role basically gives them the privilege of what they can able to perform. Okay. So the privilege is basically nothing but it's a in a simple language I can say the different actions which the user can able to perform. So the privilege gives the user on what kind of action they can perform. Next, we have something called as data security. So what is a data security? So the data security basically tells or gives the user, the permissions to, for which set of users they can able to perform this activities. So privilege basically gives them, the activities or the task, right? And the data security will permit them or will allow them to perform those activities or tasks on, which set of data. So that's how the fusion security works. Okay, we'll see in detail about that. So that includes the recruiting and the hiring functions. So there are primary roles which are involved in the recruiting module. So we saw the primary end users, right? But from the roles perspective, we have this primary roles which we have. So we have recruiting administrator, recruiter, and the hiring manager. These are the primary roles which we have from the Oracle, Oracle standard or seeded perspective. Okay. So apart from this, we have certain secondary roles. These secondary roles are not seeded within the HCM module, okay? But these could be created as per the customer's requirement. So what are the secondary roles? The secondary roles are the recruitment marketing or the recruitment sourcer, and then the content manager. So these are some of very commonly created secondary roles. So basically, how are these roles created? We take an existing role and then we duplicate it, and then we remove a lot of privileges which is not required for this particular type of users. So basically, we will be focusing more from the primary roles: recruiting administrator, recruiter, and the hiring manager. Apart from this, we also have one more role which is called as recruiting manager. Okay. So people who have already worked on Fusion, we must be aware that we will be having one seeded role called as manager, whether it could be human resource manager or the payroll manager or the time and labor manager. So every module will have one role called as manager. Okay. So similarly for recruiting, we have recruiting manager. So why are we not talking about the recruiting manager role here is because the recruiting manager role is again it's a it's a higher role which basically gives the user to perform all the transactions or and which they can able to see all the data. Hmm. So we'll see that role also in detail once we go into our training sessions. So for now, we will be focusing more from the recruiting administrator, recruiter, and the hiring manager. Hmm. So as I said, the Oracle Fusion works based on, the role-based security control, right? So this is an example of who can, perform what kind of transactions on for which data. Yeah. So this is an, very commonly used terminologies when it comes to the roles and securities. Who, what, which data. Hmm. So first, we take hiring manager. So what an hiring manager can do is the hiring manager can approve a job offer. Okay. So for which job offer they can able to approve for the workers in the reporting hierarchies. So this is an example of hiring manager. So similarly, what all the other activities which an hiring manager can able to perform? The hiring manager can create a requisition. So for which data he can able to create a requisition, he can able to create a requisition for his own positions. Okay. So based on what the positions he has access to, only for those positions he can able to create a requisitions, or only for organizations for which he has access to. Hmm. And next we have recruiters. So what a recruiter can able to do, the recruiter can able to create requisitions, they can able to manage candidate flows, they can able to create offers. Okay. So for which set of data the recruiter can able to perform all these actions. So the recruiter can able to perform all these actions for for the specified AOR, which is the area of responsibilities. That could include recruiting organization or recruiting location or job family or job function. Okay. Next, we have something called a sourcer. So what a sourcer can able to do? Sourcer can able to create campaigns, manage candidate communications, and they can able to track the progress. Okay. So for which set of data the recruiter sourcer can able to perform all these transactions? Only for the requisitions which the sourcer is aligned with. Okay. If a sourcer is not aligned with certain requisitions, and for those requisitions, the sourcer cannot able to perform any of this data. And the last we have is the recruiting administrator. So what a recruiting administrator can do? Recruiter administrator can able to, do all the configurations and maintain functions of the recruiting module. And then from the data perspective, you can able to access all the configurations and maintenance function. So you cannot restrict and recruiting administrator that, you should able to do the configurations for only so and so legal entity, or we cannot restrict the recruiting administrator in defining and configurations for so and so locations alone. Okay. So the recruiting administrator, they can able to access all the data from the setups perspective. Okay. So we don't have a functionality to define any scope data scope for the recruiting administrators. Hmm. Next, we see from an implementation point. So before I go that, any doubts or questions so far, team?
Yeah, Ravi, can we
Yes,
have
Ali.
more than
Sorry, Ali.
one recruiter in the setups? Like two recruiters if we want to create.
Yeah, that we don't have any restrictions on, like, how many recruiters we need to have. See, there are customers, in one of the implementation, I had a customer who had, like, roughly 240 recruiters. The organization count was like 1.4 lakh employees. So for recruiters alone, they had 240 plus recruiters, and then we had 8 different type of recruiter roles based on the organization, based on the scope of the recruiting, right? So we had, like, more than 8 types of recruiting roles, and then they had like 240 plus recruiters. So there is no limitation on how many recruiters you can have, or, like, how many type of recruiting roles you have. So those are, like, it's all based on the customer requirements.
Okay, and we customize the notifications and all, like which recruiter should be able to get the notifications related to job posting or any kind of.
Yes, Ali. So we'll see that in detail, right? Once we complete today's session, maybe next week, when we go to the notifications, right, we'll see that, in detail on, like, what kind of notifications has to be triggered to which recruiter. All those details we'll see in detail.
Okay. And sir,
Ravi,
yeah, okay, please carry on.
Ravi, what is the difference between job family and job function?
Uh, see, basically these are, like, the grouping parameters. Okay. So it's an FI. So the job family and job function. Let's say, for example, right, we may have something called as engineering as, one group. Okay. And inside the engineering, like, you might have civil engineer, mechanical engineer. So if you wanted to have this kind of classifications, right, then we use this job family and job function. So these are basically, these informations are stored in the job.
And Ravi, the difference between recruiter and sourcer is is also like maybe when we go on carry on more, we will understand more. Like who's the person who will post the job and who will look through the cycle, conduct the interviews and all. Is it a recruiter or a sourcer?
See, what we do is like, we basically, so, so sorry. So we basically look only from the recruiter perspective, okay? Because sourcer is not an Oracle standard, user or role, okay? So it is a custom one which we have just added for our reference perspective, okay? But all our sessions will be focusing from the recruiter because recruiter is the seeded one.
Okay, so he'll perform all the activities until the candidate is not onboarded.
Yes. So any other doubts or questions, Steve? Okay. So then what we'll do is we'll just see how to configure the recruiting users and the securities. Okay. So in order to create the roles, right? The navigation is we have to go to navigator, tools, and under tools you will see the security console. This is the place where we will be, we can able to create the roles or basically access the roles. Okay. And in order for the securities, we'll go to setup and maintenance, recruiting and candidate experience. We can just go to users and securities task. Okay. So to see if you wanted to see the different users and securities perspective. Okay. Or if you wanted to define the security profiles, then we go to my client group, and under my client group we will have this option. So we'll see that once we go into the application. And then before we even go to those particular questions, right, we need to first determine what are the roles which are involved in our customers recruiting process. Okay. So as part of our kickoff and as part of our workshops, right, we'll be understanding, or as part of our CRPs or playback, we will be understanding what kind of roles the customers would be looking at. Okay. So we need to first determine the roles, which how many roles we need to have, what kind of privileges each roles can able to perform. We need to determine all those things, and then we need to create the roles accordingly. And then we have to create the job requisition security profiles to manage the different requisition functions and data. And then we have to examine all the recruiting related privileges from the seeded roles which we create. Okay. So what we take a duplicate of the recruiter role, and then we take a duplicate of the hiring manager role. Okay. So we'll see how to take how to duplicate the roles and then how to modify the privileges. So we basically create new roles from the seeded roles and adjust the privileges and the roles based on our user needs and policies. Okay. And then we create custom roles by updating the specific data roles using the security profiles. And then we assign the roles to the respective users from the security console. So this is how the job requisition security profile page will look like. We'll skip this page slide for now. We'll look into it inside the Fusion once we go into the application. Okay. So next, this is a sample comparison of the different recruiting functions. So we have privileges in the left side, and then we have different users, hiring manager and recruiter and recruiting administrator. So we'll see who can able to perform what kind of or which user has what kind of privileges. So we have something called as view and initiate requisition. So this view and initiate requisitions can be done by both hiring manager and the recruiter. Okay. And then initiate job offer. Both hiring manager and the recruiter can able to perform it. Let's say the customer says that, Ravi, we don't want the hiring manager to initiate the job offers. It has to be only with the recruiter. Then we will just remove this privilege from the hiring manager. Okay. And then if they say customer says that, Ravi, we don't want the hiring manager to initiate requisitions, then what we do is we just remove the privilege from the hiring manager role. Okay. And similarly, we have communicate job offer. As a standard, only the recruiter can able to communicate the job offer. And that's view candidate job applications, which can be done by both hiring manager and the recruiter. Move candidate job applications can be done by both the stakeholders. And delete candidate job application. This can be done only by the recruiter. Okay. So anything, if any customizations required by the user, right, then those can be achieved. For example, recruiter, along with the recruiter, hiring manager should also able to delete candidate job application. Then we'll just add those privilege to the hiring manager role. So that's how basically it works in the Fusion applications. And then we have something, the setup related ones, the content library, questionnaire templates, all those things can be done by the recruiting administrators alone. Okay. So we have something called as content library. This is common request, which I have received from, many customers, right? So the content library is the place where we define all the contents which is used in all the candidate communications. Any communication which you wanted to send to the candidates, right? It will be configured in the content library. So some customers, right, they ask Ravi, if there is any change in the content or if we wanted to create a new content, right? Then only the recruiting administrator can able to do it. Okay. So it is and they say like it is creating a lot of stoppage and bottlenecks for the recruiters to have an effective or immediate communications with the candidate. So what the customer says, Ravi, let's add this privilege to the recruiter role. Then what we do is, we just take only this particular privilege from the recruiting administrator role, and then we add it to the recruiter role. Okay? And then sometimes what happens is like, we will have one more recruiter role. Okay. So we call it as, let's call it as senior recruiter. Okay. So we'll have senior recruiter role. Okay. So let's say there are certain things, which we'll remove from the junior recruiter role. For example, communicate job offer. Okay. And then delete candidate application. So initiate job offer. So this kind of privilege will not be available for the recruiter role. We'll add those privilege or we'll keep that privilege only for the senior recruiter. And similarly, we will be adding some setup related privileges to the senior recruiters, the questionnaires and templates. Okay. So these kind of customizations or these kind of requirements are very common, once we start working on the ORC module, ORC implementation. And then I've been seeing this kind of request in almost all the implementations whichever I've done in the last 4.5 years on ORC module. Right from beginning, the moment the ORC module came in, these kind of customizations are very common from the customers. Okay. So, any doubts or questions on this? And before I, move to the Q&A, right? So if you ask me, Ravi, are these the only privileges which we have? No, these are not the only privileges. Apart from that, there are hundreds of privileges. I just took like, few privileges for our reference purpose. So any doubts or questions, Steve?
Here,
Ravi, sorry, go ahead, Ali.
privilege means what here? It's functions within the application.
Yes, Ali, from the EBS perspective, yes, these are, we can refer to them as functions or like, the actions which the user can able to perform.
Okay.
Yes, Anupam.
Ravi, what exactly the content library comprise of? Like, are these the contents as in like what exactly it is?
So we will be seeing content library in detail, but just to give you an idea, right? Sorry. Just to give an idea about the content library. So this is a placeholder, okay, where we create and save all the communication contents which will be used for the used to send to the candidates. Okay. Let's say when the candidate applies to an requisition, okay, we wanted to send a thank you notification to the candidate. So this thank you notification, we will be creating it in the content library. Okay? And let's say when we create a requisition, we wanted to have a standard, employer description. Then we create that employer description in the content library and we store it there. Let's say when the candidate is applying on the career site, we wanted to display a legal disclaimer. That legal disclaimer would be created in the content library. So basically any communications which is used to send to the candidates, right, we'll be creating it in the content library. We will be seeing content library in detail, Anupama, so that you get more clarity of like we have different categories. Okay, so we'll see what is in category, what are the different categories we have. how to create the content items, and then how to use it in the front end. We'll see that in detail once we go to that particular topic.
Okay, all right, Ravi.
So next we have,
Ravi,
yes,
one
Ali.
more question. See, while I work on initiating the job requisition, we face one issue which I would like to discuss, whether we have such solutions in ORC. Like before creating the requisition, hiring manager always chasing the budget for the approval or the manpower plan of the year, whether the position is budgeted or not.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is not budgeted, when hiring manager create the requisition, then it will go for budget approval and they rejects it. So is there a mechanism in ORC through which manpower plan is aligned with the ORC module? Such kind of thing is there. We
See,
have
now when you say this scenario, right, Ali, this is from the EBS standpoint, is it?
no. I'm talking about we face this problem in SAP success factors.
SAP SuccessFactors. Okay. See, in ORC, right, we see this budgeted, unbudgeted is a common scenario in, irrespective of whichever the ERP we are working on, right? So it ORC, we have something called as, requisition status inside each and every position. Yeah? If in case if the customers are going to use position management, right, then we inside the requisition inside the position, we have a field called as requisition status. So there we can define, like, if the requisition status, or if the requisition status is active or not. Okay? So based on that, system will allow the users from creating the requisitions or not. Okay? And
That could
apart
be
from that, in one
that
of
is a
my
prerequisite which you
Yes,
said.
yes, Ali. And apart from that, in one of my, last before implementation for, one of the customer from Asia, right? We had this, a big challenge, when it comes to budgeted and unbudgeted. So whenever a position is created, so we capture this information in the position, whether if this position is an budgeted or an unbudgeted position. And based on this particular information, whenever you create a requisition, right, we have defined a separate approval workflows based on the position's budgeted or unbudgeted value. So those kind of things we can able to restrict. Okay. If the, for example, if the position is unbudgeted, then if you want to have additional approvals, you can do that. Or if it is an unbudgeted, if you wanted to automatically reject it, those kind of things can be done in Fusion.
Okay, okay, sir.
So next we have certain rules and strategies when it comes to the security. Okay? So to view the requisitions, outside the hiring team and the hierarchy, right? Basically for the approvers, they need to access through the data rules using the requisition security profile, which can be associated with the help of an AWOR. So these are some of the parameters through which we can assign. We'll see that, once we go into our applications. And then all the approval privileges are grouped with viewing requisitions. Okay? So there is no separate, approval privilege if the user can able to view the requisition. This is a common thing which we normally face as part of our implementation. So the customers, the approvers, they may not be part of the hiring team, but they would need to approve the requisition. So to see the requisition details, right, they need to have this privilege called as, you know, they need to have a separate privilege called as, view requisitions. So until and unless they don't have this privilege, they cannot able to see the details of the requisition as an approval. And the hiring managers, they will typically have the view capability within their hierarchies. And the recruiters will potentially see more requisitions than, apart from the requisitions for which they are part of it, because, based on the data security profiles, which is associated to the recruiter role, and based on the personal AWOS. And then the very common thing which we get, which we face is, like, as part of the ORC, right, the hiring manager roles will not be automatically assigned to the line managers. Okay. So it has to be assigned manually. Okay? So this would be again be a standard, interview questions as well. So whenever you go for an interview, the interview asks, like, so tell me, Ravi, as part of the ORC module, can we assign the hiring manager automatically to the line managers? The answer is like, as seeded, there is no way, there is no option, but with, with certain configurations, we can able to do that. We have something called as auto role provisioning in Fusion application. Okay? So with the help of that auto role provisioning, we can assign the hiring manager roles to the line managers. And in some customers, what they propose is like, some consultants, what they do is they inherit this hiring manager role, right, inside the line manager role. So they instead of assigning two different roles, they will just assign one role. So these are certain ways which we can able to have a workaround, but as an seeded or as an Oracle standard, it is not assigned automatically. The hiring manager roles are not assigned to the line managers automatically. And all the employees and the contingent workers will have access to their internal career site, which is, the opportunity marketplace, right? So they will have access to the internal career site as in seeded. Okay? If the customer says that, contingent workers should not able to access the internal career site, then we need to remove this privilege from the contingent worker nodes. And then the recruiter roles need to be tied up with the data roles so that they can able to see the requisitions, and we can define requisition security profiles using different parameters. And next important thing about the WASM is like from the roles is that any user who receives an interview feedback. Okay, so what is an interview feedback? Basically, any interviewer, right? Once the interview is completed, the recruiter will request for a feedback of the interview. Okay, so that happens within the Fusion application or within the WASM module. Okay? So any user, in order to submit the interview feedback, they don't need any special privileges. Okay? So with an standard employee rules, right, they can able to submit the feedback for the interview. They can submit the interview feedbacks. Okay? So this is one critical point from an interview's perspective, right? People going for an interview with an entry level or mid-level roles. The interview shoots up questions like this. Okay, now tell me what is the privilege which is needed for the interviewer to submit their feedback. So there is no separate privileges which is needed. All they need to have is an employer role, which is good enough for to submit the interview feedback. So next we have something called as area of responsibility. So what we'll do is I'll just take a quick pass here before I move on to the area of responsibility. Let us see like how to access the roles and everything from the Fusion application, and then we'll move on to the area of responsibility. Is that fine, team, or do we have any doubts or questions? Okay. So now let's see like how to access the roles and securities. Okay. So in order to access the roles and securities, we need to have an we need to have a role which is called as IT security manager. Okay. So in only users with IT security manager can able to access the security console. So normally what we do is like, as part of our fresh implementations, right? Whenever we get an instance, a fresh instance from the customer, okay, so the customer basically do the initial setups, okay? Basically the enterprise setups, or these days Oracle does all those enterprise setups, and then they hand over the instance to the customer. And then customer, when they hand over the instance to us, what we do first, the first step what we do is like, customers, they will create a user accounts for us in our test instance or dev or production instance. Okay? So they create a user account with only one role, which is the IT security role. So they will just create a user with, for example, Ravi. Okay. Ravi, they create a user account called Ravi, and then they will add the IT security console role, and then they give this user to the implementation partner, which is us. So once we get this role, once we get this user account, we will have access to the security console, and from there we can able to add all the roles. Okay? So to access the security console, we have to click on this navigator. So when I say navigator, this is what we call it as navigator. Yes. Okay, so this three lines, right? This is what we call it as the navigator link. And then when I say settings and actions, that means this image or this particular link at the top right hand side is what we call it as settings and actions. Let me just clear those. So if I just click on the photo here, I'll see settings and actions here. If there is no photo, then it will display the first letter of the first name and first letter of the last name. And when I click on navigator, you will be able to see the menu here. So once you click on navigator, we have to navigate to tools, and under tools, you will see the security console. So this is the place where you can access all the roles and privileges, everything. Hmm. So ideally, many customers, what they do is, they will not give this access to security console to, to the implementation consultants. They normally have it within themselves. But, some customers, they do give us like, the IT security console. If basically the implementation partners or person who is supporting Fusion, right? They would be having the IT security manager or the IT security console. Okay. And then maybe for sometimes what happens is for production, right? The main instance, we will not be having this IT security console role. So it would be restricted with certain set of users alone, because users with who has access to this IT security console, right? They can access all the user account informations. They can access all the roles. They can create roles. They can change the securities. They can able to do anything and everything. So basically, it gives them the complete access. So once we access this IT security console, right, you will be able to see the users here. So you first tab you have is the rules. Once we go to the rules link, you can able to access all the roles, seeded and custom roles. And then next we have users, where you can able to access to all the user accounts. So there are a lot of other setups. Let's not worry about this setups for now. So once we access these roles, we have to search for the recruiter and the hiring manager role. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just search for recruiter. So when I search for recruiter, you will be able to see all these ones. Okay. So you will see the job roles here. And one important thumb rule is team. If you see any roles which begins with the okay, maybe first let me just like whenever you search for the role, you will see two lines here. You will see two lines. What is the two lines refers to? The first line, right? The first line refers to the role name. Okay. So the first line refers to role name, and then the second line refers to role code. Okay? And any role code which starts with ORE underscore. Okay? Any role code which starts with ORE underscore, that means it is a seeded role. Okay. So what is a seeded role refers to, like, these are the roles which comes as an standard, as an out of the box from Oracle. Okay. And any roles which does not start with ORA, right? Then it is a custom role. And apart from this ORA, there are certain other prefix which is used as a serial. For example, like, we have something called as HRC. Yes. We have something called as HRA as well. Okay. So anything which starts with HRA. So basically, once you start working on Fusion applications, right, you will have grip of this, terms. But when it comes to core HR and apps, few, works in it, it all starts with ORA. So one of the very common role which we have is like, human capital specialist, the human resource specialist. And then, you will see this ORA. And then, if if you're using an instance which is very old, very old instance, right, then you will also see something called as PER. So here, right, you see the same rule as, one rule with which has an, the prefix as ORA, and one rule which has an prefix as PER. Both are seeded rules. No doubt, that one could be custom. Both are seeded rules. But the reason why we have PER prefixes, right, these are the old rules. So if you notice, like, in some places we would be using this terminology called as R12, R13. Has anyone heard of this terms R12, R13 in any places, team?
Yes, Ravi, I heard in EBS, those are for release versions, release 12, release 13.
Yes, so similarly in Fusion also we have this release versions. Okay, so any roles which starts with PR, right? Those are like release 12 versions, R12. Okay, and then back in 2018 or 19 we had this release 13. Okay, So once after that, we have this new roles, which is like, ORA, which starts with ORA. So whenever you wanted to create any roles, right, you should always prefer the role which starts with ORA rather than PER. Because PER, the roles which starts with PER will not have all the privileges, as per the latest updates from Oracle. Hmm. So that's why we should always refer to, the roles which starts with ORA. Hmm. So that is the reason why I'm spending some time to, make you guys aware that, which role code to be used, in order while creating the roles here. So now that, we talked about it, what we'll do is we'll just take, the recruiter role. So recruiter, this is the seeded recruiter role. And then we have hiring manager. And here, if you see, this is, the first one is the seeded hiring manager role because it starts with ORA, and second one, it starts with IRC. Hmm. So the first is the seeded one, which we need to refer to. Hmm. So we talked about recruiter. This is the hiring manager role. And then the next role we have is recruiting administrator. Okay. So this is the recruiting administrator seeded role. Okay. And apart from this, we have recruiting manager. And then all the seeded roles, team, whenever you choose any of the seeded roles, you will see in description here, which says like, what is the purpose of this role. So these are the different roles we have. Apart from that, we have a lot of, supplement roles, from the recruiting perspective, which is recruiting agent. We have something called as recruiting agent. We will see that also in detail. Okay. So these are the different roles which we have. So what we'll do is, team, like, we'll just take a quick pass for today. Okay. And then, in tomorrow's session, once we resume, right, we will take a copy of an, seeded recruiter role and, seeded uh, hiring manager role, and then we'll try to create a copy of it, remove certain, so we'll see how to remove the privileges, how to add the privileges, and then we'll see how to assign the data security to the custom roles which we have created. Hmm. So if I just go back, we just had an introduction about the roles. So any doubts or questions still before we wind up for today?
Do we have any list of such roles and their descriptions? Or do we get it from Oracle support or any source? Because from here, like it seems like we just need to think and find the right one, right? But if there is a compilation of such roles and their descriptions, it
Mhm.
will be easy to configure any new role if needed, right?
Yeah, that is true, Himanshu, I understand that. But I have to check if it is mentioned. See, once if you go to docs.oracle.com, right, we should able
Yeah,
to
you
see
can.
that in the docs.oracle.com. See, ideally, right, people who are, once you start working on the ORC module or any modules, in fact, right, you will, you don't need, a separate list to track what all the roles which is there, right? Over your period of time, based on your experience, you will have those roles in top of your mind.
Right.
So, for example, recruiting, right? I've been doing this for last 4.5 years. Okay, so I know what all the roles have. You don't need that much of experience or this much of time frame to memorize it. The moment you start working on your first project, right? Maybe within few weeks or few days, once you start your implementation, you will start to understand. Okay, these are the roles which we have.
Okay.
But this implementation guide should have like, the list of roles which we have. So these are the roles.
Okay. No, this is, yeah, I saw the guide, But this has more of like this name of the role, but not the internal codes, right? And like within this hiring manager role itself, there will be many actions, and if any actions we need to remove or we need to keep, then
That,
that
okay,
is
you're talking from the privileged perspective. That I don't think you can find it anywhere. You have to create your own.
own, yeah.
Yes, yes. This high level information is what you will see. You will not see any Oracle documents, with a list of what an hiring manager can able to perform. If you wanted to see that, you just search for the hiring manager role here. And then once you search for hiring manager role, you can just export the roles and the privileges into an Excel file and you can use it for your reference.
Yeah. So say if there is some any particular privilege, and if we try to search it on Oracle support, we do get information about it. Like for Talio, we used to get it.
Mhm.
Not sure on this. So we do get some information, right? What that role will do or job, that particular privilege would do.
Yes, yes. For example, let's take view job offer salary, right? If I just search for this privilege here, you see the description.
Yeah. Okay, so from this we can.
From here, you can see the description, but still, if you need more information, you can try and support as well.
Now then again we'll have to like same like Talio, we'll have to give the role, remove the role, and just check what happens with that user, and then understand what it actually provides and what it takes away.
Yes. We'll see that
Cool.
in detail in tomorrow's session.
Yeah.
Hmm? So,
Okay.
any other doubts or questions before we wind up for today? Okay. So if there are no other questions, team will wind up for today and then we'll reconnect tomorrow at 7 a.m. IST. And just a quick reminder from from the institute side, like starting from tomorrow, the sessions would be available only for the people who have completed the enrollment. And if any of you guys have not completed your enrollment, please do complete your enrollment. And if you have any doubts or queries, you can always reach out to Prasad or any of your point of contacts from the Geeks Institute. So,
Ravi, tomorrow can we have a combined WhatsApp group so that we can be in touch with you for any question?
see, any communications between the trainer and the trainees, right? It will happen through the Geeks. Okay. So, if you have any doubts or queries, you can just pass it on to your point of contact VOCs, right? And then they will create a communication channel for us.
But it is very difficult and it will take time if we have any urgent thing, if any snapshot is there, system is not behaving perfectly, or any error is coming. So WhatsApp is a very convenient method. Other instructors also
Yeah,
I saw.
yes, I completely understand your point, Ali, but as a best practice for everyone's privacy, right? We don't think we don't have any common communication channels. We don't prefer to have any common communication channels. So you can reach out to Prasad or any of your point of contacts from the institute.
At least with you we should have. How I will be in touch with you if I have any doubts? Why I should go to any third channel and then he will communicate to you? I should have a direct link with you, right?
I completely understand, Ali. Maybe you can have a one-on-one discussion with Prasad on the same.
Okay, I'll check with him.
So thank you so much, guys. You guys have a great day ahead. Be safe and let's connect tomorrow at 7 a.m. IST. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.